Brown's next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Wyszynski, thank you for your comments. I want to take off on that, but my question is really to Mr. Cockle. I introduced with Senators Blackburn and Peters the Rapid Reserve Act. It would require DHS to award contracts to generic drug manufacturers in order to keep reserves, if you would talk to Ms. Wyszynski, of active pharmaceutical ingredients and finished products that we can easily turn to during drug shortages. We shouldn't, you know this, we shouldn't have to rely on foreign countries, in many cases foreign competitors, for the drugs Americans rely on. A stronger domestic pharmaceutical supply chain will help to prevent those shortages and those delays. Goes without saying. Mr. Cockle, you discussed in your testimony a proposal to invest in the domestic manufacturing of essential drugs at risk for a shortage, a similar concept, different but similar to the bill that we have put forward. Elaborate, if you would, on the benefits of implementing these types of government contracts.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for your work with the others that you mentioned on Rapid Reserve. We supported it when it was introduced and continued to support it. The concept there is to have a contract to produce API, to take that through to finished drug. And as you say, that's quite similar to what I talked about. The one difference is what I talked about today really doesn't, it creates an insurance policy so the manufacturer is ready to produce when the shortage starts. But doesn't assume that the production is ongoing. But otherwise, they're very similar concepts in terms of creating the readiness to manufacture in an economic environment where otherwise we would not have that.
Thank you. And Dr. Hernandez, question for you, if I could. The U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission a couple of years ago recommended that Congress direct the FDA and other federal agencies to identify alternative sources for APIs and other ingredients, including utilizing the Defense Production Act. Last week, the administration announced plans to implement some of these recommendations. Congress has already provided some resources in the administration to use DPA authorities to ramp up production of medical supplies, including generic pharmaceuticals. I fought to include this in the CARES Act that Congress passed a couple of years ago. One domestic company, National Resilience, has already secured a DPA loan to expand domestic manufacturing capacity of essential medicines in a community called Westchester Township, north of Cincinnati. Your testimony, Dr. Hernandez, highlights how drug shortages are a matter of national security. Can you speak to the importance of additional resources for authorities like the Defense Production Act? And also, as you answer that question, what are some additional authorities that the U.S. government can use, including DPA, to bolster the domestic manufacturing of pharmaceuticals?
Thank you for your question. I'm not an expert in national security. It's just evident to me that this is a vulnerability, but I'm not an expert. I'll be happy to review this and get back to you with a written answer for the record.
Okay, thank you. DPA is something not especially well known around here in the country, but is something that a lot of these issues, whether it's fentanyl smuggling into the country, whether it's crypto's use internationally for various onerous uses, can come under, or certainly our national security issues. DPA may be in place to answer some of those. It may not. That's what we're trying to explore, and we will follow up with you. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yield back a minute.